Welcome to This Week in Habsland. I am Jordan and he is Brian. We are here coming to you after the Habs drop game one of the second round to the Buffalo Sabres 4-2. Brian, I'm going to let the listener in on something that is beyond a trend at this point. You and I, throughout the years, have rotated who edits each episode. And how it's worked out so far this postseason, I have, including tonight, edited or will be editing all 4 playoff losses. And you will have edited all 4 playoff wins. So, for a man that says he doesn't believe in jinxes, or maybe even not superstitions, do you feel any responsibility in committing to taking over the editing duties going forward?
Hell no. This furthers my belief that jinxes do not exist because I don't want more work. Are you kidding me? Who wants more work? That did not occur to me, but maybe that's why I've been in better moods after my edits than you have.
Yeah. So, anyways, I thought some levity to start. This was a weird game. You might not think it, but immediately there's just acres of space for both teams all of a sudden. Where I want to start, Brian, is significant shift in play style. There was a drag it out defensive style, no one taking too many risks. I know your move, you know my counter move, I know the counter move to your counter move. Series against Tampa, which was kind of set from the last regular season game that those two teams played against each other beginning of April. Then we get to today, and it's wide open. It is, I think, more akin to what Buffalo prefers to play. So my question to you, Brian, and I think there was some success for the Canadiens in here, 4-2, and we can get into like the details of it. It's a very Buffalo game. It's a very Buffalo result in how the game went, and this is how their whole season has been, by the way. Well, at least since December. Is this we've talked about like play style over the years, and like, do you want to be a team that is adaptable to many play styles or be so consistent that teams adapt to your play style? Because we're seeing the Canadiens be the former, not necessarily the latter right now.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly with that. They adjusted, I would say, not well in this first game to a different play style. They were, I think, very much taken aback by it because when space opens up that you're not used to, you have to be ready to strike. And that's what Buffalo was tonight. They were just ready to strike at any moment. Giveaway in their defensive zone, 2-on-1 coming towards your net immediately. Like within seconds, Dobes is having to defend after we had possession of the puck in the opposing zone. And that happened numerous times. That's tough to defend against when you're not used to that. The Lightning really were not threatening with the counterplay. Neither team really was in the Lightning series in the grand scheme of things, not compared to tonight, certainly. So the counterplay that Buffalo is able to throw at you when you make a mistake is really scary. And the Habs made more mistakes tonight, I thought, than they had been against Tampa Bay. Now, some of that obviously is because that game was so much more controlled. So you knew what to expect at all times. This game was so wacky. I think that wacky games just breed giveaways. They breed 2-on-1s. They breed posts and crossbars galore for both teams. And, I mean, look, I won't say it wasn't an exciting game. The result sucks. We're unhappy with that. But it was an exciting one. This series is going to be, depending on the style of hockey you enjoy, this is going to be more fun from a goals perspective and an opportunities perspective and high danger scoring chance perspective.
Yeah, for sure. We saw that right away. I mean, the joke of the Canadiens had more shots in the first period than they did in all 3 periods of Game 7 against Tampa. Now, and what's interesting I find about this, like the Canadiens are down 2-0 towards the end of the first. They get their goal, the Suzuki goal. But what happens at 0-0, Lane Hudson goes off the crossbar. Then there's the Hudson has an oopsie. Buffalo comes back on a 3-on-1. Then when it's 1-0, there's a great forecheck by Josh Anderson. He finds Phil Deneau completely wide open in the slot. Like, unreal amount of space. And I'm kind of getting annoyed between him and Evans, the amount of chances these guys mess up. But anyways, they don't convert 1-0. Eventually, Habs take another penalty, 2-0 Buffalo. And then before the power play, there's an Evans Newhook 2-on-1 where Newhook goes off the post. So there's a universe where in the first period where I thought the Canadiens played decently and 2-1 was a bit of an unfair score in the first. I thought the second, again, the long change wasn't a good period. The second, the third, there's a lot of score effect going on where you're going to look at some of the stats and the third will seem tilted. Buffalo very much sat back on a 2-goal lead and were never really fussed about how dangerous the Habs were being. But really that first period, you play that first period 4 or 5 times, the Canadiens are probably leading at least 2 or 3 of them because things happened a randomness at center ice with Lane Hudson, a crossbar here, a post there, a more talented player offensively, at least, than Phil Deneau gets that chance, and it's different. So, me personally, first period ended 2-1. I was like, you know what? Fine. It's okay.
Right. I kind of feel the same way about this game itself in this series. You went to Buffalo, who, by the way, I want to throw this in. I wanted to throw it in right from the get-go, but we got right into it. Habs, you got to get used to playing against a team whose fans like to be in their building.
It's true.
They didn't get that in Tampa. Did you see how much fun the Buffalo Sabres fans were having, booing and yelling Dobes all game? You got to get used to that. You didn't have that in Tampa.
It's true. So other things that kind of noticed. So look, the shift in play style that we know this Habs team is just not able to. We don't totally know exactly what their play style is. I do think it's closer to I don't know exactly. I was going to say it's probably closer to Buffalo, but clearly the Canadiens found something in that more defensive system in the Tampa series, and even before that in the regular season towards the end there. So having said that, I do want to start a bit with kind of what's Buffalo. We didn't do a proper preview, and now that we have a game's worth of tape, here's what's happening. Buffalo has a truckload of speed and is always throwing someone towards the net. You notice this on their rush chances where 2-on-1, 3-on-2, even if it's like a 2v2, they will take their time, and it does two things. One is it lets the trailer come in, so they always have someone coming in at the high slot. And the second is it gives them enough time to just chuck someone at the net. So there's always a body in front of the net. And we saw it in a way, the Green Way goal is not totally that, but ultimately it's just throwing someone to the net and putting two bodies in front. And I think it was also the Bowen Byram goal on the power play is the same thing. Now, power play is different, obviously, you're set, but the net presence from Buffalo, along with this speed, and some of it was the Habs, just, I don't know what was going on in transition. And it wasn't a forecheck. It wasn't a Buffalo four. It was just, I don't know, sloppiness. But did you notice that too in terms of we can talk about their size and their physicality? I think that's just a home crowd going bonkers every time there's a hit. But it was really just the speed in transition and the just every time someone's in front of Dobes.
Yeah, and their dump and chase straight up works. It's a very different one. The forecheck is not at their bread and butter, and yet somehow they seem to get possessions off of that really often. They have very timely entries, I find, especially their top six. Zach Benson's very creative on entries, and they have a bunch of guys who do it well. Krebs, Thompson, Tuck, that line, just in general. The Habs are going to have trouble with that type of shit. Yep. When the opposition, at least this season, when the opposition has gotten going with speed, very often the Canadiens had trouble with that. There's a select few guys on the team who can deal with that. I think Caden Gooley is a good member of the D-Corps for dealing with high amounts of speed. I know Hudson fell on his bum and gave up the first goal because of that tonight, but generally he's pretty good, especially with his processing speed, to pick apart the play that's about to happen. All that being said, it might fall on guys like Carrier and Jacky, who, once again, icing the puck quite a bit tonight. Not quite a bit, but at an inopportune moment. I don't love that stuff. I don't love that the team has gotten, I guess, lulled into a sleepier style of game against the Lightning, and now Buffalo at home with tons of energy, who's gotten a break, get to just take their speed to you and take game one from you. And the Habs outshot Buffalo, but Buffalo outchanced in terms of quality chances. How many 2-on-1s did they have? I know I said it already, but you can't give up that many odd man rushes. You just absolutely cannot. And the other thing I'll say here is, as you're giving up the odd man rushes, the other thing Buffalo does pretty well is they make everything difficult for the little players. And so it was a lot of Caulfield getting just rocked and then odd man rush coming. It was Hudson making a blunder because he's about to get rocked. They make everything difficult. It was very similar actually to the first game in Tampa, in that it was just physicality, and I don't think the Habs brought that.
Yeah, I do think the difference in the physicality here is this was a game toughness, not after the whistle nonsense that Tampa was bringing. This was way more there's a purpose to this, right? Push you into the zone, create that extra space for the trailer, and then you're extending your rush. The Canadiens were getting back on the forecheck a good amount, but it was just, okay, but what if your fourth guy is not back on the back check I meant. But what if your fourth guy is not back checking, then we catch you. They're very good with that because of how fast they can enter the zone on a counter. And again, a lot of it too is just Canadians were just being really sloppy between the face-off circle and center ice. It wasn't the Tampa one was behind the net where all the issues were. I didn't see that as much here. It was more like that's the second pass, or even just trying to. You're right. One team had 4 days off, mostly at home. The other team only had 2 days off, elected to stay in Tampa, which I don't totally disagree with. One team looked tired. It's also on the Dobes. We haven't talked about Dobes yet. Did not give his worst game in the playoffs for sure. I liked what Marty did in keeping him in. I thought, maybe that he was waiting for the commercial break, but and I'm sure this tracks for the team as well, but especially for a young goalie, it has to be a trip to adjust to a new team suddenly and new playing style and new players after you play another one for 2 weeks straight, right? Like you're so locked in and suddenly it's changed. And it's the first time for this whole crew. I know there's guys that have been to the playoffs in the past, but for this core, this unit, the first time they're transitioning from one end of like a playoff series we're going to talk about for a long time to, okay, 40 or not 48 hours, but 72 hours later, you're back on the road. You're playing another team. You got to turn the page. So I actually kind of liked Dobes first settling in himself. He has a big save when it's 4-1. It's a bit of a mad scramble. And then he just kind of settles it down. Buffalo doesn't push much in the third, but it's probably just good for Dobes to be like, okay, these are my angles. These are the guys, just to get used to it, just collect more data on his own. What did you think? Did you think at some point Jacob Fowler should have came in after it was 4-1?
No, Dobes in round one bought himself a game or two's worth of less than ideal performance, because this also wasn't a stinker. Like, he didn't play super poorly. I think that Buffalo's offense just lends itself to doing very well against an aggressive goaltender. The amount of times that they go on the rush and are able to make Dobes have to move from side to side, he has to cover a lot of ground laterally when he's like 6 to 8 feet out of his net. Whereas, I mean, look, Fowler might be a good example. He is aggressive at times, but he is definitely a goalie who stays a little bit closer to inside his net, and therefore he has less distance to travel laterally. So it wouldn't surprise me if at one point in this series we saw him, if games continued like this, because stylistically, I just think it's a good matchup for Buffalo to go up against an aggressive goaltender. And I still think Dobes is the dude, man. He proved it in the first series, and it would not astound me if in game 2 he has a much better performance, 1 or 2 goals let in, something like that. That wouldn't be surprising at all. But you're right to say that he and all the other young guys especially really are going to have to get used to a completely different style of play. A faster game, one where you're put on your heels instead of putting the opposition on their heels. And that's a dangerous position to be in, especially against like a really high octane offense. And then the other guys I want to get to, we started this whole discussion talking about just like Buffalo, giving sort of a preview on who Buffalo is. Greenway and Malenstein are just checking monsters.
Mm-hmm.
And Greenway, he barreled a few Canadians tonight, a few little guys, and I did not love that. So you got to watch your back when number 12's on the ice. When their whole third line is on the ice, you got to be afraid.
I'll just on the Greenway stuff. Tavy Espal at one point was like, yeah, he's basically a better Josh Anderson, and I'm like, yeah, at least tonight that's definitely what he was.
Yeah, exactly.
Just killing you on the forecheck, hitting everything that moves, scored a goal. Like, it's everything you want from a checking forward to impact the game. I thought he was fantastic. I thought the Zach Benson line with Ryan McLeod was everywhere. Like, whereas like the Tage Thompson line was okay. Like, it was fine. It was more the other two, like the middle six, if you want to call it. Like,
sure, yeah.
And it's it's debatable what's their third line, their fourth line. But like for me, the middle six, the Kozak line, and then the McLeod line, like that was huge impact. At the end of the day, though, like 2 5-on-5 goals the Habs conceded. One of the power play goals, Dobes has 0% chance on it, and the other is the Byron one that I mentioned earlier, where he is screened in front of the net, and like they play it perfectly. They screen him just enough to one side. He leans over. They go to the other shoulder. No chance. So yeah, I'm happy Marty kept Dobes in. There's I think everyone saw it though. Like, there's space, there's opportunity. The first line had some really good offensive zone shifts, and I think we have spent time here and there talking about Cole Caulfield. We've tried not to harp on it. It is now 8 games and 1 goal, nothing at 5-on-5. His shot attempts are way down. I was checking in the the playoff round against Washington last year, he had 9 shot attempts per game in 45 and 5 games.
Holy
he had
crap.
3 goals. Like, he was just ripping things. So this isn't like a Cole Caulfield can't be effective in the playoffs. Washington was gigantic.
Yeah.
They were borderline bigger than Buffalo. And what we've seen now through 8 games is not what we expect out of Cole Caulfield. And we've put the asterisk if we don't know if something else is going on with him. But presume the answer is no right now. It's like, because what I've seen really with the first line is there's been some momentum a little bit the last few games, but if your 50 goal scorer is not able to convert, like that's 0.6, 0.7 goals per game that's gone suddenly.
Yeah. There were a lot of games the Montreal Canadiens won because of Cole Caulfield this past season.
Yeah.
That goes without saying. Losing that one player's ability to put the puck in the net virtually at will brings you from a top 10, I forget exactly how many goals for the Montreal Canadiens had roughly, but I know they were top 10, to probably a bottom 10 goal scoring team. One guy underperforming. And it does extend to a certain extent to the entirety of the first line, when I might be wrong, but the eye test told me tonight that there was a lot of peripheral play. And the one time that Slafkovsky decides, screw it, I'm going to the net, he cuts from the side of the net through the slot and feeds Suzuki, who snuck in on the back door right through the blue paint. It was perfect. Perfectly executed play, perfect timing from both of them. And that's the type of stuff that they're going to have to be doing in order to be successful in this series. And I know it's a power play. That's the asterisk here. I know that was a power play opportunity, and at 5-on-5, that's when we really want to see them do that. But it's the same stuff. It's still just cut to the net. Cut to the net. I also have a question here to go back to Cole Caulfield. Did he, just like in the Lightning series, get both of his shots, both of his opportunities prior to getting rocked by Jordan Greenway? I know he got one big one at the start. He had a clapper, and then he had a rush chance very early. And then I'm pretty sure Jordan Greenway rocked him after that. And in the Lightning series, I remember him getting hit hard early and not looking the same after.
Yeah, he definitely didn't have any, as far as I remembered, I don't remember any shots from him in the third period. So there's certainly a chance that you're right there. I will say something to watch on the offensive end. You just referenced it. I found this was the least effective the Canadiens were in terms of getting into the slot and getting into the front of the net.
Yeah.
Kirby Dach's heroics aside, which something to just continue to monitor.
Yeah, this is unfair, man. We're 19 minutes into an episode, and we haven't mentioned the Habs' best goal scorer in the postseason.
Yeah. So amazing effort. Bolduc,
yes.
I just little yoink the puck from the Buffalo player, and then immediately turns it over to Dach. Dach, I think, tries to push it across the crease to pass it back to Bolduc, but on the fly, while falling down, definitely got tripped, pops it into the back of the net. Kirby Dach going to the net, scoring goals. You love to see it. It's 2 out of the 3 now are like that. So want to give credit to that. But other than that, like, it's a lot of, you're right, a lot of peripheral stuff and not as much at the net as you would have liked.
Yeah, and that was tremendous second effort on that play as he's falling backwards and spinning. He gets the backhand in. That was awesome. I don't know. I don't want to harp on the top line too much.
That's fine.
Because it's almost nonsensical to me that they're having this much trouble. Like we don't like speculating about what's wrong, but it really feels like something's wrong because they shouldn't be underperforming like this. They're big moments players, all 3 of them.
Okay.
And we've seen them do it.
Let me divert us to something else that's troubling, and that's the second line. So,
sure.
Ivan Demidov.
Yeah.
Let's.
I'm hungry for this. You mentioned Jake Evans before and how he and Danault, when they have an opportunity, it's just squandered. 33% of the time that Newhook and Demidov are on the ice, who are inconsistent players to begin with offensively, but both have looked pretty good lately. 33% of the time, that play is ending on Jake Evans' stick and therefore not going in the net. So, like, we joked last series about Evans. Well, eventually he just gets to be the second line center on this team.
You're recognizing the ceiling of that ridiculous take, and we're seeing it right now. Demidov had his best game of the playoffs today. Matt, this is a series he's gonna like, and he's gonna learn a lot in this series.
Yes,
which again,
true.
I feel like I'm returning to my normal self of like, it's okay, we can learn things again because we've won a playoff round. But truly, like, it's a second round, different things are happening, different matchups you have, so bigger sample size. I thought Demidov looked great today. I thought he was flying around. There's just Alex Newhook is inconsistent. So is Demidov, like you said. But Jake Evans, I don't know. I didn't see much out of Joe Veleno today either.
No.
Like, we know there's stuff that needs to be done. We know that this is not a complete team. The way that when you look at Buffalo, like they put a lot of chips in this year, and they gave up a lot of draft capital to augment that team on the lower end, not necessarily as high as the second line. So we mentioned him earlier, like 4 minutes ago. Is it time to return the prodigal son back to the second line and make Kirby Dach the second line center? The issue, of course, is the faceoffs, and we've seen Marty basically just do Danault, Evans, Suzuki for about 80% of the faceoffs.
For a very good reason.
Yeah, because they're great, and that's something the Habs dominated in once again today.
That's something the Habs should absolutely dominate in this series. That's one place where the Canadiens destroy the Sabres. The Sabres were awful against Boston, and they weren't good during the regular season. They were last in the faceoff circle. So that's something the Canadiens should definitely be taking advantage of. So to have Newhook and Dach, and then I guess Demidov can take draws.
Yeah, like it's...
Like if that's the line, maybe Demidov could be a competent face-off man and then just go back to the wing.
It can limit them, certainly. And you can also do the thing where Dach starts on the bench. Danault takes the face-off in a defensive zone.
Okay,
jumping off the ice. Like, Marty's done this. Marty knows how this works. I'm just wondering if now might be the time to bring Kirby Dach back to the second line as a center. Like, we go full circle on the 4-year experience of Kirby Dach, and he's back at center in the top 6. We just said he's playing as one of your best forwards right now. Demidov, like, you need something out of that second line, because the first line, who knows if and when they get going.
Is Kirby Dach looking this good because he's playing less? So that's the fear I have about this, is that you give him more ice time and he doesn't shine as brightly with that extra ice time.
Yeah.
Maybe that's an irrational fear, but we have seen Kirby Dach fail to reach the level of a second line center. I think the best he's looked at times has often been a top 6 winger. So it kind of just harps back to that long-term idea of the Canadiens still need a second line center. Like, just, off-season preview. That's what we're going to be looking at a ton. I say do it. I say still do it. You'll never know unless you try, and he deserves a chance to try. After everything that he's been through, after all the crap he's gotten from the fan base, give Kirby Dach a chance with more ice time. What's the worst that can happen? The Canadiens are going to need to score goals somehow in this series, especially if the first line can't hack it. And if Kirby Dach is on a bit of a tear and Demidov is looking good and Newhook is one of the few guys who's using really high pace to get to the net and nearby it, why not combine that? Gain an extra threat and then have two just kind of pure checking defensive lines. Danault gets his own line, Evans gets his own line, and you organize them as best you can. You get, Veleno, but you get Veleno out, and maybe you bring Gallagher back in. There's another guy who goes to the net.
With the speed in this series, I don't see Brendan Gallagher contributing positively. I see more chance of Oliver Kapanen re-entering the chat, because maybe that's the type of guy you need. And now you're just telling him, hey, you have a completely different role than what we've expected of you most of the season.
You know what, man? Think back to Kapanen goals this season. He scored a lot of them, but try and remember from a while ago. A lot of them were rush chances.
Yeah,
you're going to have rush chances in this series.
Yep.
Maybe Kapanen's the guy. You're right. On second thought, the speed, no Gallagher. Yeah, go Kapanen.
So, I mean, your alternative is you go 11 forwards, you bring Struble back in, and you just say, all right, Captain Nick, you're playing 27 minutes.
I'd rather play 5 defensemen, I think.
Okay. On the defenseman, just quickly, we can wrap this up. Like, I thought the Habs penalty kill was just like, I had such high hopes for a while, and it's just gone back into the toilet. And like this Buffalo power play was like 1 for 40, and they made it look like it was the Harlem Globetrotters.
They were due. Let's look at that. Let's spin it positive. They were due.
Yeah, sure. Matheson, Carrier, I don't think I can do it anymore. Noah Dobson looked much better. You're seeing Dobson and Hudson come together. I think it's time we bring Caden Gooley properly with Mike Matheson, or do something. Matheson Carrier in the first round was 31% shot attempt percentage, 35% expected goal percentage, and 97 minutes of ice time. Those two, that's in round 1. I don't have the numbers for today. I'm telling you right now, they're not going to be any better.
Yeah.
It's been rough. It's been rough to see.
You can have one of them at most in your top 4 against this team. And I think it's Matheson because of his foot speed. I think that Carrier Carrier probably belongs. Oh man, but then it's a Carrier Jack-Eye third pairing. Where's David Reinbacher?
Yeah, I see. I don't mind like having you just have let Jack-Eye play with Carrier. Let them get 3 shifts or 4 shifts in the first period, 3 shifts in the second period, and then you're just rotating. You get Carrier to play a bit more, but you rotate in 1 shift with Matheson, Carrier. That's fine, but then Hudson and Carrier, and then maybe Goulet. Like you can still do it in a way where you're bringing guys in more frequently, and you're keeping Arbor Jack-Eye to 8 or 9 minutes. So yeah, it's Matheson just needs to clear the puck stronger. Like again, I think I'm referencing the Byram goal again. Like it just didn't clear the puck hard enough on the penalty kill. And I've just been yelling about this for the last 3 weeks. And I would have been yelling about it longer, but I don't care that much about the regular season, so I don't fret too much about a goal or a loss.
Right.
So that's kind of what I've seen from this game, Brian, right? Like Dobes, he was fine. I'm happy Marty kept him in. The Caulfield alarm bells are starting to go off, but you know, we're hanging back a little bit because 5-on-5 offensively, that line had a lot more sustained offense today. Kirby Dach, Ivan Demidov, maybe it's time for a blind date, and then get rid of Matheson, Carrier, and bring me more Caden Goulet, please. Anything else you wanted to touch on? Like, I mean, I think we talked enough about Buffalo. I think we all kind of got a sense of what they are and what they're coming for. This is a team that was 3rd in the NHL in shot attempts. And shot percentage. So they are very opportunistic. They are very skilled and talented. And part of it is because look how close they were on some of those goals. They're a foot in front of the net. So anything else you wanted to bring up before we start wrapping?
Not really. I'd like to just start kind of predicting. If you have a prediction for game 2, doesn't have to be score or winner or just something occurring in game 2. What do you think is going to happen next?
I still think it's an open game. Like Alex Lyon is very beatable. There's chances on that 6-on-5 where the third period, like I said, is going to be, from a statistical perspective, a bit misleading because Buffalo played score effect. They were up 2 goals. They could take it easy a bit. Doesn't mean the Canadiens weren't creating chances. It's more defensively where the Habs defensively, Buffalo offensively, that like I won't take much away from it in the third period. But the Habs offensively in the third period, I saw stuff that I was okay with. Yeah. And Alex Lyon is super beatable. So what do I think is going to happen? I think we're going to get a Demidov game. I think
another one. Great.
I think, one where he gets on the score sheet in a more effective manner, right? I believe he picked up an assist on the Suzuki goal, but let's get that, which I believe, I don't think he's scored yet a playoff goal in his career, his very short career. But I think we're going to get that. We're going to get a Demidov goal. I think it's going to be the Demidov game. Game 2, the Canadiens will take it. What about you?
I want to just tackle the Lion idea because, the Canadiens are still treating it like they have Vasi against them. Don't be selective. Shoot pucks on net. I think Caulfield is so due at this point, and this is definitely wishful thinking on my part. But Caulfield hits the score sheet in the best possible way, 5-on-5 goal.
Okay.
And I think in general, more realistically, the team succeeds in playing this style in game 2. I think 1 game to adjust is plenty. We want Marty to make a bunch of changes, but even if he doesn't make most of those, I think that if each player just adjusts their pace and their mental fortitude to this style of play, like 5 or 10%, this game looks drastically different, and I think game 2 will look drastically different. Lots of shots on Lyon, please. That's it.
Yeah, and then the other thing is, if we're just mentioning quickly ice time for defensemen, Noah Dobson was number 2 behind Lane Hudson. This slight difference is going to be the power play there, but basically at 5-on-5, Noah Dobson played 24 minutes tonight. Mike Matheson played 15. So Marty is recognizing the shift that needs to happen. And you were noticing a couple times, or at least I was, Hudson, Dobson with the Suzuki line, just all gas. And I would expect to see that more and more. So Marty's going to make changes. We know it. They're going to tell them you need to clean up, specific parts of the game. Really, it's just, again, from the defensive face-off dot to the red line. You can clean that up in transition. That's part 1. The second is on the back check. Everyone needs to get back, and it's the trailer. If you kill the trailer, they have to go with their OG plan, which is not as destructive, because then they're running out of space and they either need to shoot it on the net or they won't have enough time to find the right trailer and they'll start a cycle. And that's okay. I don't mind Buffalo on a cycle. I'm scared of Buffalo on a rush chance. Marty will know this will happen. again, it's learning opportunity, shifting to a new round, new, completely different play style, man. Like Tampa to Buffalo is just like whiplash.
Yeah.
You know, this is like old school going from like Broders, Trap Devils to like, I don't know, ironically, like 2006, the slug Buffalo Sabres with like Danny Briere and Jason Pominville and all those guys, where they were just zipping up and down the ice. That's kind of what it's not as that, definitely not that drastic, but that's kind of what's happened. And it's like,
yeah.
Well, did they adjust properly? No, they didn't. They weren't ready for game one stylistically. 7-game series.
Yeah. Go ahead, try and take game 2, and then you come back to Montreal. And I like our chances back at home. I think with the fans, this series might be much more home matters.
Yeah.
Than the Tampa one was. I mean, statistically, it will be. The Tampa one was just the opposite of that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Statistically, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, what a tremendous learning experience this is to play two such drastically different teams.
Yeah.
Like if you can learn to make this adjustment, it's wonderful because it really is actually the two ends of the spectrum. So you learn each of these, and then every other team kind of falls in between somewhere. And then there's Colorado, who just good luck to you, and then the Sharks in a few years apparently as well. Do you want to touch on Toronto? I don't either. Let's wrap.
I have thoughts on both San Jose and Toronto, but we will obviously keep that for draft time. But I have thoughts on both franchises.
Believe me.
I need to see. Well. I want to see GMMG do something because I think we're getting there. And Toronto, don't worry, they're basically just getting new Mitch Marner. Okay, so
for the record, I also want to see Toronto make some moves.
Sure.
Because they have a bonehead in there now, so no moves could be good moves.
Yeah, give us Matthew Nice. Okay, so listen, game 1 happened, whatever. We'll move on. What I like about the series, every other day they're playing, so maybe there's a good rhythm. The Canadiens will get into it nice and quickly. We'll wrap it up there. You can follow us on social media at HabslandPod. Find the podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us there as well. And until game 2, go Habs.